Hey y'all, we are live. We are live. We are live. I don't know why I sing every time I say that. I feel like I do that all the time. So I'm gonna give myself a few seconds here because I definitely want to make sure I am sharing this. I know my YouTubers are able to see this automatically. It's public, but for some reason when it comes to Facebook, it doesn't make it it does not make it available. So I have to go in and actually. Great. Now that I have been able to change my audience to private to public, how you guys doing today? I am so excited, and I've been excited all month. And I know for those of you who watch the broadcast faithfully, you guys know that I am celebrating my second annual anniversary of They Took My Choice Away Survivor Series. I have been very fortunate to meet survivors across the world, y'all, across the world, for allowing them to tell their story, but not more importantly, to show you how they persevered through the trauma and giving them an opportunity to even be able to share. I think it's a good mental health advocate, like a part of being able to purge some things that get built up sometimes. So um, I've been very fortunate to meet new people and um, feel like I'm not alone, more importantly. But no more about that. I have a special guest from Detroit, and his name is Daquan H. White. Oh my God, I'm gonna add him on. I'm gonna add him on because I can't now wait for you guys to meet him. Hello, Daquan. How are
God,
you?
I'm doing amazing actually. I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good.
Good.
I'm honored to be on here today. I really am.
Well, I'm excited that you are here, and you came up as one of the three um, men that Ronald wanted me to reach out to. And I didn't initially reach out to you. You were a hard person to find on Facebook for some reason. So if you're not friends with this guy, let me tell you, it is hard to find him.
Oh man.
I don't even
I
know
gotta
why
fix that.
that
If that's
was.
the case, I definitely have to fix that.
It wasn't until we had the conference online
Mm.
back in April where one of the speakers had tagged you. I'm like, there he goes.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely going to have you on for next year. You already know.
I
Um, I
appreciate it.
I have to have you on for next year. I don't know what your word for the day is, but we'll think of some crafty things.
Oh yeah.
Guys, listen, what can I say? He is a co-author for Echoes. You guys know that I'm real big on this book. Thank you for those who inboxed me after sharing some details about the book in support of this book. It is so important. It is so imperative. Also, I think it's even good for psychiatrists, psychologists, to even get the book because you could see the different dynamics and the different backgrounds people came from, and their experience, so that you can be relatable to men, so that you too can be relatable to Black men, and of other ethnicities. So I think it's so important that everybody get a copy of this book. My God, just the first anonymous story, I couldn't go past it. For I had to. I couldn't believe the things that I was reading, and it was too much that I had to do a video.
Yeah.
And so again, thank you for all those who support. They took my choice away, who support the survivors on here. You know that I don't just, you know, stitch a story and hear somebody's, life story and then we move on. No, we are fans for life. And so Daquan, tell us about yourself. You don't have to go into your story just yet, but tell us what it is that you're doing with yourself, who you are right now. We're going to get into what happened to get you to this place, but who are you right now?
Well, firstly, like I would like to say thank you, right, before I even talk about myself, because and thank you for allowing me to be in this moment. I'm grateful. I know I was just sharing with you a few minutes ago. I see your platform. You're doing amazing. From your from what you're sharing, and also bringing everybody else on. It's been beautiful. And I don't know how I'm just not seeing your, all your stuff too. So I'm grateful that we connected now. There's a few things before I get into myself. Also, we have a workbook. We
Mm,
officially have a workbook. So I know we were talking about the people getting the book, but now we officially have a workbook.
I love that.
So Robert just completed that. Robert does 1,000 things a day. I don't know how
He does.
I don't know how he this. I don't know. It's like he stays up all day doing this. So for all those psychiatrists, therapists, advocates, all those looking into understanding the depth of what we go through more, helping, where do you start? Is most
Mm,
times where do I start? So
right.
now the workbook is readily available for people. So I just wanted to put that out there because we're trying to do as much as we can to provide resources for those wondering where do I start with this. I want to help.
Yeah.
I want to know more, but I don't know where to start. So I just wanted to put that out there. So me, Daquan, I'm horrible at talking about myself, particularly. So it's so weird.
It's okay. So start somewhere. That's
I
that's
would,
the topic for
yeah,
today.
we were just talking about that, right? So I would say I'm a person. I'm a man that's still trying to figure it out.
Mm,
Um, I've come a long way. Um, I'm grateful to be in a platform that I am. I'm a man of resilience, I would say. I feel like I feel like this was something that really hurt me and frightened me so long. And to know that now I'm using that to be to speak to people and talk to people about it. Something I thought that I was gonna just really kill me, like take me out. It's the very thing that I'm, privileged to be like platform to be able to use to be to help other people. Never thought about helping other people because I didn't even know where to start myself.
right.
I feel like I'm in a transition. I try to be as transparent as I can. A lot of people I heard someone say recently, "Oh, you can share your story," and I wish I can be like that and be where you are. I'm like, look, even like you were discussing, even reading a book is still hard. Reading sharing my story is a lot of times still difficult. Every time you read it, you realize more about yourself, or sometimes certain things come up. So
Yeah.
it's just so I'm just a work in progress, and I'm just trying to allow God to build me up. Um, Exciting things. Not only do we have this project, but I'm in a transition in my life of transitioning from HR management and customer service to the tech world. So I'm excited about that. Um, I'm trying to get into modeling. I did it at one point, and I stopped because I was just the insecurities, the hurt, the shame. I feel like I wasn't fit for that. But to our topic we were talking about, you have to start somewhere.
You do.
So
I don't know what you're talking about. You look like an amazing model. I
thank
told you I
you. I
love
know
your picture.
yeah, I appreciate it because it's just like as of lately I've been working and been working on stuff and really trying to transition into this tech world. And so I've been
Yeah.
in my zone, but it's just like like we were saying, you have to start somewhere though. You have to believe in I think the first thing I guess if I was to say this, you have to believe in yourself.
That's right.
I know it's tough. I know sometimes you wonder what you do, how can you where do you start? Sometimes it's just a matter of jumping out there.
Mhm.
We were talking about the podcast. What you're doing is amazing. I believe I know for sure people need to hear what you're doing, see what you're doing. This is not an easy topic to talk about, right? I know people see us doing talking about it as if it's really easy, but or what they assume, but it's not. It's not. And everybody we come across so many different stories and so many people dealing with trauma, I believe you have to just start somewhere. And also, I would say connecting to a group of people that you can do life with. My brothers I'm connected with now is, as we call it, I call it my tribe. I love these brothers. I love these brothers. So oftentimes when you hear me talk about me, I'll kind of like
Mhm.
get off the road of talking about me and talk about them, because those are the ones that helped me to get here right now. If you see any growth and you see me, start thriving, it's definitely because of them, for sure.
I think it's important to have a community behind you. I
Community
think
is
I think
everything.
right, and I think at the being at the right church could also be a great
Oh,
community.
yes.
You have to be at a life-changing church, a church that you are able to connect and also grow. If you're not growing, then you might want to consider where you're going with
Well,
this church. And
that's a
that's
whole
okay
nother.
if it's okay if it's touchy, but I had to leave a
No,
church.
no, I
You know what I'm
appreciate that.
saying?
You have to
You
be at a
know?
place where you have to be in a space, and I mean, not only when you're by yourself with your friends, excuse me, but the reason why it's important to be
Mhm.
around people of faith, and I really believe in healing.
Amen.
Be around a church and leaders that really believe in healing and change, because everybody's not gonna like your story. You're gonna have people that judge you, not understand, but being around some people that have empathy, that care about you, that believe in healing, believe in you progressing. Um, I remember when, well, yeah, we being real. I remember when we first started this project. Robert was already working on it for a while before he asked me to be a part of it. But I remember when I started to share my story, and I remember people telling me, people told me not to do it. I also remember telling people I was getting into therapy, because I believe in therapy and Jesus. They both
Mhm.
work together.
That's
Like,
right.
and I remember people telling me, just talk to people in the church. You don't need therapy. Why don't you just talk to people? But sometimes, and I experienced, I'm just speaking not just in my church, I'm talking about in general,
Sure.
that we as believers, sometimes we don't understand something, or sometimes we don't have the resources to do that.
Mhm.
Even if you don't understand, and I'm saying this and I know a lot of people may get what I'm saying, even if you don't understand a thing, be willing to listen to people, be willing to walk with them. So I had a lot of people within the church world that didn't support me, and so I had to just put that out there that when you're on this journey, it's not always going to be, it's not going to look good for them a lot of times. And I mean, as if like you're talking about a subject that's tough for people to even bring up, to even say the word, you know. So I know I'm sounding like I'm rambling, but surround yourself with people that even when they don't understand, they're willing to walk with you.
That's right.
You have to. So I just wanted to put that out there. Definitely, it's definitely important.
And it's okay to lose folks along the way.
Yeah, and naturally, it's going to happen. Honestly, you can't help it. As
Yeah.
you grow and as things change and as you begin to walk in your truth, a lot of times, a lot of people that I'm connected to, like I'm not the person that I'm gonna cut people off. If anything, I had a problem with doing that.
Right.
I was that person that, like, I don't care how bad you were, I'm gonna find some good in you, or I'm gonna. And honestly, it wasn't even finding good. It's just not being, not putting myself first. And honestly, as I've been growing, I haven't been trying to cut anybody off. Though they just seem to fall off themselves.
Yeah.
So be okay with things not being okay sometimes. Be honest with
I
you.
like that.
Yeah.
Be okay with not being okay sometimes. Well, we as we were talking, we came up with the topic. We're we need to start somewhere. And so thank you for that. I try not to get too personable when it comes to church things and things like that, but sometimes it needs to be said.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just the church needs to do a better job in supporting communities like this. I think if they if they can talk freely about adultery, and they can talk freely about you know um, you know um, um, gay, being homosexual, then they can also discuss pedophilia. And it's running rampant, and it's only getting worse, right? And the enemy, he finds craftier ways to get away with it.
And
And
God can't deal with anything that you're not willing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
burst
go
that out.
ahead.
But
This
God
is
can't
you.
deal with anything that you're not willing to talk about.
That's right.
People are like, well, God knows my thoughts. But yeah, but God can know your thoughts, but you can easily just be like, I'm gonna just leave it alone where it is. And I'm, like, I know it's sensitive. I feel like, you know what, I know you say you try not to go there, but I just feel like I'm grateful
Mm.
you mentioned it. Um, we when you ignore something,
Yeah.
it can't be fixed. It's just like, a lot of times when ice falls out the freezer, and some of us kick the ice, under the freezer, or we just leave it there.
Yeah.
See, we don't think it's a problem if a couple ice cubes fall when we go get the ice, whatever. We're like, it's no problem. But what happens is somebody else comes behind you, and what if they fall and slip on it? you
Mhm.
know and what I'm saying is that, like, we have to be responsible. Like, you not talking about it, that's an issue too. That's really what I'm saying. You not discussing it is an issue too. I get it, we don't have the resources readily available to talk about this. For a long time we haven't, but it's happening even inside the church. I know y'all don't want to talk about it, but I have brothers that have that story, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't my story, but I know friends and people that have this story. So you can't ignore anything you're not willing to deal with. I know God knows all your
Mhm.
thoughts, but if you're not willing to admit it and start somewhere, like we were saying, it can be done. I don't know, we're scared to lose people. Well, I don't want to go there, but
No, we
I'm gonna leave
are.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
We are. No, it's it's
I'm gonna
it's
leave that
it's a
alone.
known fact. It's a known fact that I mean, is the pulpit,
And I love the church, so I hope that
Yeah.
y'all don't see this and think we bashing.
No, and not at all.
We know, but it's just like, where if look for resources. If you
Yeah.
don't know any resources, look for people that are willing to come in and talk about it. But and I'm not in some churches. I know, because someone got on me when I had a live like this before. They got really angry. But the truth is, we're not trying to hold anybody to shame them.
Right.
It's not about bring about shame. There's already shame. It's already enough shame done already.
Right.
The word already beats up on us already. We're just trying to bring awareness. That's it.
That's really what it is. But in retrospect to what you're saying, the church is already in a position to help with all sorts of
Well,
resources. That's the thing. That's the
that's
thing.
the truth.
That they're already set up. They're already set up to be, so that'll be another topic. Maybe we got something going on here. Maybe we need to do a podcast, of that. But you know, I I'd like to really dig into your story. Your story actually impacted me so much so that I just started writing, bullet points of everything that, I kind of want to talk about. Um there's so much to unpack in your story, that we in this episode, I want to, yes, it's going to be awareness, but it's also to hold parents accountable for your children. I think that's going to be the most important thing. And if
Yes.
anybody who is watching me or watching this live right now, you know that I am all about being accountable. I was bleeding all over my children, because
Mm.
I was not well and I had to get well. And when I got well, I started to realize I got to go back. I got to go back and apologize and make things right with my children so that they have a fighting chance at adulthood.
I gotta
And,
share something with this is
come on.
dang, you got me. It's so, in the back of our book, I couldn't stop looking at this either. It had to be the Holy Ghost. But so the back of our book, it says, to find yourself, you must travel to the places you are afraid to explore. This is the only way to begin healing.
Hmm.
And I just heard you firstly, I could commend you to say that you to apologize. I'm not just speaking from my parents, but we grew up in an area where it was just like, if your parents is wrong, they were just wrong. There wasn't no explaining. It
Very
wasn't no
true.
I'm sorry. It's
I
what I
operated that
say,
way. Hmm.
and that's that.
Yep.
So for you to say that, for you to say, like, I apologize and I had to go back,
Hmm.
that's big.
Hmm.
That's huge.
And I
And I
stand
know
on
that
it.
was tough, but I mean, like, you started. I'm like, you decided to, and honestly, what you did was you broke something.
Woo! Come on.
that could have lasted, you know. And you know, a lot of times, even though we only know what we know, your children go by what you do, not by what you say.
Come on.
So by them watching you and you did that, that was an epic move, you know, for your children, you know. Like, okay, well, you know, as tough as it is, they're gonna be, and they may not, you know, of course, they may make mistakes, whatever it is, but they're gonna know the right way to do things as they get older. So I just wanted to commend you for that because, again, we grew up in an era when it was just like you weren't questioning anything. The parents were wrong. It wasn't no apology. It wasn't I'm sorry. Well, in my case, sometimes in my case. But with that being said, as far as my story, I haven't talked about my story since the last time I worked on a project that I can't wait for to come out, and can't really share too much details now, but it'll be bringing some awareness to what we're doing. Um, and I had to share some truth that I never thought I would share. And I guess this is the first time me talking about it publicly. My brothers know that I'm close to. So where do I start? So when I
Well,
was younger,
yep.
I remember because in the book I kind of skip stories, but I'll explain now. So my mother's boyfriend was the first person I was sexually assaulted by, and that was tough to say, to admit, because I never wanted my mom to feel like I was bringing shame upon her or my family. It wasn't her fault. She didn't know, and I believe my mom didn't know. But I remember he was young. I remember just he was like a friend to me. I was very young. I had to be like 4 or 5. He was much older than I was, and we used to always play. You know, even though it was my mom's boyfriend. You know, maybe not me not knowing better or whatever it is. I just looked at him as another brother to play with because my brother wasn't in the house at the moment. It was just me and my sister. So I remember one day I was in the bed and I remember just wrestling with him playing. And I remember at one point he pinned me down. There wasn't any physical penetration, but I remember him touching on me, and I had to take off my clothes. And you know what's amazing? And it's still tough to talk about, but I'm grateful people can hear it. In my mind or in the book, I would say that, you know, as far as he was drunk, but what was crazy is trauma has a way of making you forget stuff or make, you know. And so he wasn't drunk. And even if he was, I told myself he maybe was, maybe he wasn't. But I use that as the excuse to why he did it. Truly, there's no excuse neither way. It's not. I've never for years I buried that within myself. Oh, he did it because he was intoxicated. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It happened. And I remember yelling, screaming for my mother to help me. And my mom, I'm sure she had the music on, cleaning up downstairs or something. And I remember just screaming. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I didn't have the words for it, didn't have the language, but I was just, you know, but I was yelling, get off and what's going on? Because I'm thinking to myself, we were playing. And for you to trust, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody's story, but but the same person that you trust to hurt you does something like to you. So I feel like at that moment I knew something was taken away from me. You can't explain it, but it was just like, even though again there wasn't any penetration, for them to be touching on me and forcing themselves on me, it's just like, man, I trusted you. You know, I looked up to you. You know, and it's like I also shared in the book at that point I believe I started to feel like my voice wasn't being heard. That's why I feel like part of my voice was lost from me, or you know, or it's buried. I would say is a better term, because I'm like, nobody heard me screaming, nobody saw what happened, and I just forgot about it. I truly forgot about it, and it was something that I never would talk about until recently when we started the book. And then going down the years, my mom to having 2 kids, it was always tough though. I will say, being the middle child, because now you're fighting for, now you're fighting for people to see you, and sometimes that turns into you misbehaving, being misunderstood. That can still, you know, and so I feel like I was the good child. Or I hate to say that, or then at one point I feel like let me do anything to be able to for people to see me, right? My mom, and then what happened was my mom's boyfriend which was with her for years, which I thought was my youngest brother's father at the moment. He moved in with us, and he started. My first memory of him was him screaming at me one day, and I thought that was the worst. I went to get some cookies or something, right? And I think he was screaming at me. And I remember thinking to myself, "Well, my mom allowing this man to scream at me like he doesn't like I'm not his son."
Mhm.
Now, I didn't always make the best choices, so I was like, "Let me give this man a chance." Still young, I had to be like a good maybe 8. So anyway, I remember waking up in the morning. Our school was right behind us. We lived on the south side in a place called Saginaw, Michigan, very small place. And I remember I let my brother sleep on a top bunk bed. At this moment, my brother was bigger than me. He was like a year older. I said, "You can go ahead and sleep on the top." My sister had her own room. Our school was right behind us, so we got up around 8:30 because we just walked right in the back of our house. Our school was right there. This man woke us up at 6:30 in the morning, screaming and cussing. I won't say what he said, but I mean, he just screaming and cursing and yelling, "Get up and clean up, get up and cook." And I'm thinking to myself, what in the world's going on? So I remember my brother was like, he spoke up. He always did. He was like, "I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? It's 6 o'clock in the morning." He grabbed my brother from out the bunk bed. He snatched him so hard that the partition or the little barrier and he broke the thing. My brother hit the ground. That was my first memory of him. So there was no, I wasn't sexually assaulted by him, but I was physically beat by this man for years. I did feel like people didn't say anything, or they didn't know the extent of what happened. Um, I did try to speak up, but I also feel like people think, "Oh, well, kids make mistakes and do certain things, and they just deserve it," or let's whoop them and it was the simplest things, from slapping to punching to being hit with some anything he can find. And that happened for years and years and years. And so there was just always a struggle for people seeing me. But that's also where my faith came from. I feel like I was by myself. I had me and my father weren't close. And oftentimes we know what happens when the father is not in the house to guide you, right? You don't know where to go. You don't know. You lose a sense of self. Or you actually, I can't say you lose a sense of self. You never had it. You feel like you never had it, right? And so going back and forth with my dad, or rather I was his son or not. And then long story short, I would just make this story short. I became an alcoholic. So I'm a recovering alcoholic. I do often share that, or starting to share it now, because I realize it's part of my journey. Like, why be scared to share it? And at first it was just, recreational, out and about. And then it started becoming like, okay, what's the way to hide the pain? Because nobody sees me, I can't talk about a lot of stuff. Life is happening, it's hurting. And this started when I was around like 12, 13. And it went from maybe getting certain people's drinks until it's out partying, with our cousin friends, going back to the hood, that I would say, and doing that. And it got so bad. I mean, I remember almost dying so many times. So many times. It happened more than once. Just trying to drown myself out. I don't think nobody plans, I feel like, to being an addict or have an addiction to something. But what happens is, when you find something that can just hide that pain, or that you being tired mentally, it's just like, that's what I chose to do. And so that happened. Um, Also, while all that is happening, we end up moving to a neighborhood, which I talk about in the book. I was going with a guy that was across the street from me. I knew him because he went to church with my grandmother. And so happened, I ended up finding out that when we moved to this area, that they lived across the street. I would say the first thought of him was, he knew that all my other brothers and sisters had their dads and people that, because a lot of times it's a manipulation, right? And they watch you. So let me just make it clear. People have a thought. People are thinking. People are plotting on it already. It's already in their spirit and their mind to do. So he used that tactic to be able to draw me in and to do what he did. Um, Always bullied me, but then when we were alone, try to befriend me. And so I remember I'll skip a lot of things that happened that I knew was a red flag. But I just wanted to friend. Oh well, maybe we were gonna say now.
Yeah, say the red flags. I think that's important.
So some of the red flags was even when we would be out playing and stuff like that. I remember at times when we were alone, he would say certain things to me. He would hint at certain things, sexual things. And what happens is that's where grooming started, by the way. I didn't even know that I went through grooming until I met these other brothers that started explaining their stories. I'm like, grooming? Me? I don't think that was my story, but I'm like, that was my story. And of course, they may not know what it is, but that's what they did, right? So some of the things was when I was alone, he was certain sexual things about him and another person, him and other women, etc. And then and then also when we would be playing or wrestling, it'd be times when he would, touch me, and I'd be like, what are you doing? And it kept happening over time, right? And so, and consciously or subconsciously, I guess you don't even know it's happening, right? You don't know what's happening. Um, but that was his way of drawing me in and me not knowing, right? So one day, I remember
Well,
him.
can I say something?
Yes, of course.
When something is just gradual and it hasn't hit the point of hurting, that's why kids get confused.
Yes, yes. Because here's the thing is too, we talk about that in the book too. Whether you're a man or a woman, or well, I would speak for men in this moment. You don't know what's right for wrong or not, especially when it's your adults touching you, because your body is naturally created to react to those things, right? So you may just think that it's normal, that it's right for these adults or these other kids or other people, other family members, whatever, to touch you and abuse you. And what happens is they keep doing certain things to build up to that point, right? To get you where they want. Um, and so that was my story. I was groomed. Um, and I believe he saw that I didn't have friends or I was always by myself. He saw that again with my sister and my other siblings had other people to hang out with and be with, but he saw how he was able to see me and to see those like I long for friendship, brother, for brothers for people to be around me, and they notice and they see that. So I'm just speaking to the parents right now. Um, that's how it happens, and people are like, why did my children say anything? Well, it's shame there. Sometimes they don't even realize. Sometimes it's not even shame. Sometimes they think it's normal. Well, this person has been touched. Let me just be honest. I don't know how honest I can be.
This is our 2 hour special. I already see it's going 2 hours. So this is our 2 hour special. You got
Okay,
the
I just want to
platform.
be honest as I can, and I wanted to ask to be respectful first. But a lot of times, like, well, you didn't say anything. They were touching on you, which is the wrong way to even to approach your children or whoever you're asking about it. But because they've been doing it, right? And it's been instilled in their mind that it's okay. Oh, when I'm over at Uncle Jake's house, he just puts me on his lap or touches me or my cousins just do this. And I'm saying family, and I'm saying that because a lot of times we're in denial and we see the signs and we don't ask anything because we love a person. Stop doing that. Please stop. Ask your children and believe your children. Believe that frustrates me to no end that you don't even give your children a fighting chance. They're trying to stand in their truth, and for someone, and I'm getting emotional because for someone to share their truth and their pain with you, right? That means that they love you. That means that they see that that you can listen to them or they trust you, right? There's some type of trust there. And so, do you understand? Or I'll give you people perspective that's watching. Do you understand how it breaks you? You're a child already. People think just be shade a child's place, but then you feel like you have some type of truth or this hurt that you're trying to express, and you get shot down or you're wrong. And I heard stories like a family member shared her story one time with me and a few other family members about her mother's boyfriend doing that to her, right? Or numerous of people that would be over there. And her mother said, called her a B word and a few other things. And she said, you just want him for yourself. You just want his kids. You want to just take him away from me. You don't want me to be happy. And I can imagine the brokenness within her. And I just want to just stop for people to be able to like breathe or to be able to have that moment, because that's tough. So what happens is you start to realize like you can be promiscuous, addictions. You're also the person that does that to other people. You know, victimizing other people. Um, and so it's important to give them a fighting chance when they say something, believe them, right? Go through the process with them. I understand that it's tough. I understand that maybe somebody you loved, but what happens is you're telling that person that their voice does not matter when you decide to be hush about it. When you decide that, you know what, I'm going to not even look into it, I'm going to just believe this person. But I've heard so many times that child's a liar, or they're just children just lie. Because how did you feel when you try to tell your truth about your whatever happened to you? And it doesn't have to be this instance when your family or mom or parents or whatever didn't believe you, right? You know, feel that. Put yourself in their place. So for me, and I'll go back. I just wanted to share that for people, because oftentimes children are looked at as they're lying or a little white lie, or they misunderstood. No, 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 no. Look into that. Look into that. Please look into that. Trust them. Give them a fighting chance. So for me, with all those things happening, all those things in place, all those factors, right? I'm sure he saw that and used that to his advantage. So one day he came to my house. My sister was on the porch, and again, I'm skipping some of my story because they're trying to all between there. But it was a build up. I remember him asking me one day to play his game. Again, manipulation, or using the tactic, or using something that he knew that I wanted, right, to be able to draw me in or get close to him. And so I think I had a game and he had a system or something. And so I was like, cool, I'm gonna just bring it over to his house. My mom didn't let us go anywhere, so let me even make that clear. A lot of parents blame themselves. My mom didn't let me go anywhere, but my sister said, "You go over there for a minute, be right back before mom gets here." And this is how quick something can happen, right? So I went over there, talking to him, sitting on the bed with him. I remember looking out the window, seeing the next door neighbor's side of the house. I just remember all these visuals going through my mind. And I remember him by playing the game. He really wasn't playing. He was just really sitting there watching me. And he started talking about how him and his other friends basically sexually assaulted somebody else or did it upon themselves. I'm not sure, but I remember him talking about something like that. And again, it's rehearsing in my mind. Subconsciously, it's like being instilled in my mind. And that's where the grooming started. The grooming started a while back, but it's in my mind. I'm listening. I'm like, I'm not sure why he's telling me this, but okay. So I'm sitting there playing the game, and then next thing you know, I remember him talking about his story. I remember him touching me, and I remember him just talking about a whole bunch of sexual acts, and then basically pulling my pants down. And while I was playing the game, I kept ignoring him, like I would like. And eventually, he took my pants off and proceeded to like try to give me oral, right, touching on me and stuff like that. Threw me off, and I'm thinking to myself, I still had a game in my hand, like, what is going on? I remember putting the game down, proceeded to do that. At that moment, something was already broken me, right? I was like, really at that moment, something broke. Like still can't explain it, to be honest with you. I still can't put it in words. It's
You
still hard.
froze.
I
You
froze.
froze.
It's almost like when people say, "Oh, you saw a ghost, but you didn't run." It's the scare, it's
Yeah.
that trauma, it's just being scared, it's that frightening feeling, right? And I stood sat still, and I just didn't know what to do. I remember saying like, "What are you doing?" and yelling and talking to him about it. And then he was like, "Now you gotta do that to me." And I proceeded to try to go. I remember him sitting me back down, and I remember him talking to me as he did it, and basically he made me force myself on him with trying to give him oral and touching him. And then the next thing y'all know, I remember him forcing me on his bed, and he penetrated me. And I remember, he was way bigger than me, a few years older, maybe good 4 years older, probably. I remember him just forcing himself on me, and I remember yelling, like, "What are you doing?" But then in the midst of that, because it was happening maybe 30, 40 minutes, but I remember it just being a few seconds. And I didn't know until I got out because I saw the clock. But I remember being forced dead. I remember yelling. And at one point, I blacked out. I don't know whether it was the pain or to take myself to a place in which I didn't think about it. I didn't feel anything. And that's what happened. That was the first time I remember getting up, feeling absolutely disgusting. Went to the bathroom, tried to wash his bathroom, tried to wash myself off. Only a few seconds. I realized it was gonna work. I remember him being on the phone with his friends talking about it, as if like I chose to do it. It was the most degrading. That was the most degrading thing that he just bursted off as if I was nothing. I was crap. I was worthless. And I don't know what the details, all of the details he was talking about, but I remember my brother being incarcerated at the moment. I was like, I'm making my brother get out. He gonna do this. And the first thing I did, as I kept hearing him talk about it, feeling disgusting, feeling low, I grabbed a knife and I charged at him. What made me feel even more, what degraded me even more was that when I did it, he laughed at me. It was like, it's almost like the enemy or the devil laughing at you. It's a horrible feeling that like I just wasn't being taken serious. That yet again, my choices being taken away, and also feeling shame in this disgusting feeling. Like I could have fought him off. Like, why didn't you fight? Why did you go to that place again? Right. So anyway, he forced me out. He said, "Hey, you got to get up. My mom's gonna be here in a minute." So happened, my mother was getting home too. So I try to rush home. I'm wiping my face off. I just run jet into the front, and we had a door in the front, a door on the side. I ran straight in the house. I'll tell you what I did next. I ran into the bathroom, and I ended up dropping something because I was such a friend. I ended up dropping like little marbles we had by our sink in the bathroom. I ran the hottest water I could find, and I was drinking it. I was trying to drink it. I was pouring it on me. I don't remember. I didn't. I was so numb and so hurt. Did not feel a thing. I really could have died. Now, this is where I could have died because in the bathroom, keep the products where we clean. I got the bleach. I got any product I saw out there, and I started drinking it because I'm like, I got to get this disgusting feeling out of me. I got to get this hurt and shame off of me. Like, because yes, outside it happened, but inside it did something for me. And I was just trying to just wipe it out of me, and nothing helped. And by the grace of God, I heard my mom coming in, and my sister said something that really kind of like woke me up because I was in a trance.
Yep.
I was in a trance, and I walk in the hallway. My mom knew. My mom knew something was wrong. Then she did ask me. She said, "What's wrong with you?" I was tearing up. I was messed up. And thank God I didn't die from doing what I did. And she said, "What's wrong? I know something's wrong with you." I said, "No, just allergies. I lied." And a lot of people could say, "Why didn't you say anything?" At the moment, because being a middle child in my life at the moment, I felt like I didn't, and I love my mom, I do, but the truth is, I didn't trust my family with that truth. So what's tough is not having anyone to even open up and talk about it. I didn't, and I can say that now and not feel any shame or knowing I'm not degrading my mother or putting her down, or my family. But it's like for my whole life, I feel like I was fighting to be seen, and nobody heard me, or I was never could do enough. So even when I had the opportunity to share my truth, I couldn't. She asked me a few times. A mother knows what's going on, or she doesn't may not know. She can feel it, and I was like, nope, nothing is wrong, nothing is wrong. And that abuse happened for years. And so the alcohol, I was partying, but the alcohol and drinking and partying happened after that. After we moved and after I started hanging out with certain friends. And so I was using that to drown me out. And of course, people saw me in church and doing what I was doing. My life had changed. I was a completely different person than where I was. And the problem was that I was functioning alcoholic. So you couldn't tell I was out there, doing what I was doing. You would see me in church or see me out and hey, Daquan, hey, brother, why you? And I was the one just drinking or like wasting my life away. Now, what's tough is we moved a few different places. Saginaw is a small place. No matter where I moved, this man followed me for years until maybe like somewhere in the middle of high school. So, um, oh wait, I'm kind of skipping stories, as my brother Rob said, just take your time. So, I remember prior to leaving my mom's house, one of the memories I had was that this was after we moved from the area. He found me, right. My mom did not like him because he and my brother didn't get along. But my mom just decided for him to that it was okay for us to hang out. She didn't really know it. She didn't know what was going on at all. So one day he came into the house. He would always pull his pants down or did something for me to, and that's when I knew something was going to happen, right? And he proceeded to rape me. He raped me on my mother's bed. And I can remember the smell, the covers just laying there. And I know this is graphic. I know this is tough for people to hear. But it happened. And no, I didn't tell anybody. It kept happening. And what's crazy is this man, everywhere I moved, this man found me. Every single time. Um, what it just kept breaking me. I remember recalling a moment when I was on my way to this is another house, by the way. This is going from another house. I remember I was on my way to Sunday to church for choir rehearsal, right? I remember my dad, not my dad, excuse me, my granddad had just passed away maybe like 2 years ago. No, maybe a year ago. And the couch that we had in the basement was his. He would always sleep there, sit there. That's how I remember my granddad. So I remember the guy came in downstairs, and this is why my mom and my other siblings were there. They had no idea because when he would, when he would sexually abuse me, again, I was in such in a bad state and already broken that I never screamed. I always went to this dark place, so you would never know. He used that to his advantage. I know now. So I remember being on the chair thinking about my granddad. It was a real tough day. I'm looking at his bed that he's asleep in. He had just passed away. I was on my way to car rehearsal telling him this, and he proceeded to rape me again. And I remember being, and I was on a chair in which my granddad had, it was his. I was on the chair literally. And I remember thinking to myself that because the choir, I mean, not the choir, but the van was outside at this moment. I remember them blowing the horn, everybody being upstairs, and nobody knew nothing because I remember trying to speak and nothing would come out. That's how broken I was. So when I say literally not having a voice, that's what I mean. I'm trying to give you guys like what that looks like. Um, so there was no fighting. There was no trying to fight him or nothing. And he did it so many times when my family was there and nobody never knew. Um, Fast forward to maybe like ninth grade. I remember dating this girl, and I remember just feeling broken. How I forgot what happened, but that day something triggered me. Right, I was just like, man, this person been doing this for me for years, and I'm tired of it. I remember him coming over, proceeding to do all these things, and at one point I just gave in. I was just numb, like it's whatever. And I remember saying one day, I don't know where I got the strength from. I was like, look, I'm growing up. I'm older now. You can't do this to me no more. You can't do this. Like, I'm tired of it. You got to get out. And I remember him saying, oh, you ain't gonna do nothing, yada, yada, yada. And it is what it is. But eventually, after arguing, going back and forth, he ended up leaving. That was the last time um, that and I had any sexually abused by him or anything that happened to me concerning him. But what's disgusting and what's also sick, that's why I said people, it's so important to talk about mental health. I'm a mental health advocate for those who don't know. So many times he would message me Still do. He still does. And he'll ask me sexual questions, or he'll ask me what's been going on, or and it's crazy because during that time, a few years after he did that, I remember being so broken and so messed up. I think I was just getting ready to commit suicide. 'Cause suicidal ideation did come so many times, and I'm appreciated to God that God didn't allow it to happen. But I remember during that time I was getting ready to go commit suicide. I had a plan and everything. I messaged him asking him, "Why did you do that?" And just do gas to the I mean, or gasoline to the fire, or made it worse, was that I remember him telling me, like, "You're a liar. Never happened." Gaslighting me, as I know now, which makes so much sense. The gaslighting. I remember him telling me, like, "It never happened, and you're tripping, and I don't know what you're talking about." Um, and so that really sent me spiraling. So when I say that, that's why I think a lot of the behavior that I've had over the years, uh, being promiscuous, with dating, with never feeling safe with women, but with the sex I was having, from the drugs, the addictions, also always putting myself last when it came to people. I'm just getting out of that, of putting myself first. Feels very strange, very strange. Um, but I say that because I guess I never wanted nobody to feel like I felt. But it really, let me tell you, it really stunts your growth, because the insecurities, the shame, the guilt, I could have fought them off, or I could have did better, or why did this happen to me? Where was everybody at? How come I didn't speak up? And even so much of your behaviors and people not understanding. I didn't even know that this was an issue for me. I knew that it hurted me. I knew that every time I thought about it. But when I became an alcoholic and I realized I'm allowing this thing to kill me, that's when I'm like, I gotta fight. I have to. When I found myself in a hospital with tubes in in my mouth. I don't really speak about that in the book, but so many times of just dealing with health issues, and just everything happening. And I'll fast forward, to around 2018. I've been friends with Robert since 2018 on social media. Don't know how we connected, right? Don't know how we connected, but I remember my brother had just passed in 2020, and my brother passed away from COVID. I was numb at that point. I decided life wasn't worth it. I decided, and I don't know if you ever gotten. I know people. Everybody has a different faith and believes in different things. But as much as I love God and I love Him now and I appreciate Him, I didn't want to pray. I didn't want to. I didn't want to talk about it. I wasn't showering. I wasn't eating. I was literally wasting away. I remember during that time. And this is why I'm saying this because this is so important. Community is so important. Brotherhood is so important. Sisterhood is so important. And I remember somebody that same day, and I was getting ready. I was suicidal for years, and I was getting ready to commit suicide again, because somebody called me, was like, "You've been sad forever. You need to get over it." They was like, "I don't know what's going on with you, but you need to shake it off." And my whole life hasn't been tragic. I know what I'm telling you guys now, but this is just to bring awareness to the fact, right? My life hasn't always been tragic and a sob story, but I want you guys to understand what being abused and having your choice taken away from you does to you. And so I remember that happening, and I remember reaching out to Robert about starting something a while back and thinking he's a busy man. But anyway, he called me during that time when everybody else was just like, get over it, or they didn't understand. I didn't expect nobody to understand. I didn't want to talk to nobody. Somehow his phone call came through. I was ignoring people. I remember I feel like I wasn't hearing from God. I cut my phone off. Also was homeless at one point too. This was during the time when I was homeless. So you can just imagine, just like I had no fight in me, no fight left. And I remember Robert reaching out. I was like, "How you doing, man?" And I remember just being soft spoken, being angry, didn't want to talk to him, didn't want to talk about life. He was like, "I see you, man. I see you. I love you." Doesn't know me, but he proceeds to tell me that he was like, "Look, man, you matter. How are you doing, man? I just want to let you know that I love you and I appreciate you." And it just woke something out of me. It was I don't know what it was, just like that part of just not wanting to just give up, no life left. And I remember Robert saying this. He was like, "I need you, man." I've never heard from a man without it being, especially from the other guy that sexually assaulted me, right? Or someone saying they needed me. They needed me. They didn't need anything from me, right? Or it wasn't coming from my family or any women, when it feels like you need me, but you only want what I can give you. This need was like, I really felt that he was speaking to the heart. And I was like, "What do you need me for? We don't really know each other." He was like, "I'm starting this project when I'm sharing our stories concerning, survivors, right?" And that's also the first time I heard that, because I'm always victim or, or something like that. And he was like, "I want you to be a part of it." Now I'm thinking to myself, this man got to be crazy. I'm not going to tell you what I said out in my mind. In my mind, I was just like, this man is crazy. This man is crazy. Because I'm thinking to myself, like, in the middle of me going through, why would I still want to do this? My brother, which passed away from COVID, was one of the ones that was so transparent with me and open about me doing this. People needing to hear it. So when he passed away, I'm like, I don't forget about that vision and all that other stuff. I don't care about that. I don't care about healing and talking about no. Robert was like, "I need you." Um, Rather what I don't know what it is, but I need you a part of this with me. I need you to be on this journey with me. Never had a man speak to me that way. I felt like what I needed from a brother or needed from my dad, which was really wasn't there. Um, that's what I was getting. That's what God was like giving me what I needed, especially to live. Because if I never would have received that phone call, I would not be here today. That's my truth. I needed something to fight for. I needed to know that what I had was of value, right? It's amazing feeling to know when someone just wants more for you, and they want more for you, but not trying to take anything from you, you know? And so I remember him saying that. He was like, "I need you. I'll teach you everything you need to know."
Mm.
And he was just like, "I'm not asking you to stop your vision." That's what, and there's something woke out of me. I was trying to fight. I was about to hang up on this man. I was trying so hard not to give this man the time of day. And he said, "Anything you need to learn, I'll teach you. I know you may not." I was just ready to say it. Like, "I don't know how to do this stuff." He said, "I'll teach you, but I need you on this journey with me." And I remember hearing and not hearing from God or blocking God out. And that's the first time I heard God again since my brother had passed, or a while actually. And I heard God say, "Don't ask for money, just do it." I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm like, I don't want to do this while I'm struggling to even live, to get up in the morning. And that was the first time somebody got through to me. So, with that being said, ever since then I've been on this journey with him. What I didn't know, he's taught me. Why I love him and I speak about him, because he never want to give himself credit. He's like, "You made this, you made these, you who you are because of what the work you put in." But Robert's a huge value to my life in this book and this movement, because he gave me something to fight for. I didn't even know I wanted to do this. I would have never thought about sharing my story. I didn't even, all the guilt I had, I would have never shared this with nobody. I started going live about it, trying to, sharing, talking to other people reaching out. And then eventually we started having our events and our touring, and we started working on this book together. We started getting other guys to be a part of the project. And what I love about Robert is he held me accountable. And what did he held me accountable for? He held me accountable to be my most authentic self. That's why I always say that. Every time I wanted to wallow and I wanted to just go back to where I was, every single time this man reminded me about where the person that I am now. And every time there was bad connections or somebody that had bad intentions, he will always remind me, the person you are now, they don't deserve. They don't deserve to be a part of the Daquan that's healed, that's put in the work now. They don't deserve that. So he has really looked out for me since, a mentor, a brother. And not only do I have that now, we have a whole community. I have my other brothers, we're constantly involving. We just became a nonprofit, you know. That means we can help so many more people, to make it short.
Awesome.
So that's my story. So you're looking at a person that people tried to kill me and take me out. I tried my best to end my own life. I didn't feel like I didn't have a story left. But there's a beauty in when someone else sees that fight and sees something in you. So that's why community is so important. I went from barely wanting to breathe to like struggling. Nobody noticed me. People always just want to take advantage to being a part of this. So there's life after that. Please understand this, y'all. It always won't be dark days. Um, I know I'm ranting, but I want people to know that you're loved. You're loved without us wanting something from you, without exchange. You don't have to exchange anything. You're loved. You are loved for who you are, not by what you can give. And it's a beautiful thing that I don't have to perform from anybody no more.
Ooh.
Right? It's a beauty in having a community and brothers and people that you don't have to front. You can just be you can be your most authentic self. And I didn't really know who that man was, to be honest with you. I'm talking about being authentic, but I didn't know what that was for me. You know, these brothers have helped me to figure out who the real Daquan is. So with that being said, that's my story, guys. That's what you're gonna. Some of these things you won't get in the book, but I'm privileged that she was able to allow me to share that story, and that was making it short. I mean, it's my life is so much longer than that, but that was just some of the effects of what's being sexually traumatized did to me, guys.
Well, I know for those who are viewing or who may be catching the replay, and I know some of the questions that we often hear as survivors, we often hear, or even questions that we ask ourselves is, why did this happen to me? Um, or when you are a child, it's the who is going to believe me,
Yes,
and why did we feel dirty, and all of those things, and I feel like um a child will lose their identity in
yes,
a split of a second when once it happens, once the assault takes place and it's rooted, it's
that's
already,
it.
because remember, it's a grooming process, right? It takes a grooming process to get to a point of submission, and which is what happened to you. You became submitted, like you
Yeah,
were in complete submission. You
yes, I was.
completely surrendered because you didn't feel like there was an out. I believe wholeheartedly that if things were different in your dynamics at home, and the support was there for you at home, and that there was some level of security in being able to
This is
talk to
true.
somebody, then you would have fought your way to that,
I would
you
have.
know?
Yeah.
And so when there's no connection, and I believe your disconnection, if I can just say this, and this is now knowing your story, and I'm a person on the outside looking in, you lost connection when, and this is no shame to your past, this is just your past, this is what got you to where you are. But our choices as parents, right, of who we date or who we allow to father our children, um is so detrimental in the stability of your child, and the relationship that you may have had prior to this relationship has now been severed. And so you didn't see an opportunity. you,
This is
you
true.
you
I
would have
agree.
you would
I
have
agree
taken it.
100%. I would
You would
have.
have taken it as much as you loved your mother, right? You would have taken the opportunity if you felt you had one.
Yes.
So back to being accountable for our decisions, and how we, first of all, we should be vetting our relationships. Yes, I said it. Vet your relationships, especially when you have children involved, because let me tell you, okay, because my story, and I'll make it quick and short. As often as I was around pedophilia, and I was also sexually assaulted by an assistant pastor. So I'm all about that church hurt, and all about, you know what I mean, pedophilia in the church. I've lived it. Okay. I saw it. I've been through that. I thank God I had parents that believed me, but I also had parents that didn't have enough resources to know what to do with the information I gave them. So I
Yeah,
never got
yeah,
rehabilitated.
that's it.
Right. So I only knew my circumstances. That's it. I didn't know of anybody else's. I didn't have anybody else to talk to, you know, and then, I'm growing up and I realize I'm all over the place. I'm
Mm,
either I'm
yeah,
either promiscuous or I'm downward inwardly. I experienced every emotion, every level of identity issue. I experienced so many different levels of losing my sense of identity.
yeah,
I lost it when I was a child. And so I was also sexually abused by a female cousin for many years, and what was weird about that to me was that it wasn't hurting me. So I didn't tell. you know all I could tell you was that I was affected by the way that I acted. Like, it came out in the way that I act. So with your you getting into trouble as a child, as you explained it, that you're always getting in trouble and things like that. You wanted, in your book, you said you wanted to be the class clown because at some point you're trying to hide
yeah,
from yourself. You
yeah,
know, you're trying to hide from yourself. You've become, an alcoholic through, and these are vices, or sex addictions. We don't even talk about that
yeah.
enough. When you see your child acting out, those are some clues. Those are some red flags. If you see your child always alone and not, that's the appropriate time to pay more attention to
Please
the
ask,
child,
please.
because they are vulnerable to vultures.
Yes.
They, I can't, like, that's why it was so important for you to share the red flags, because everybody talks about the story but they don't talk about the red flags, what got them to the place that you got.
And
You know
those,
what I
and then
mean?
sometimes they're usually around you. Please don't think that it's gonna be strangers.
No,
They're
come on.
it's people surrounding you that you and that you love. I put quote unquote, but it's
It is going to be people you love, the people that you trust. Let me tell you. So, wow. Like, I'm like, my thoughts is all over the place. That's why I had to write a lot of things down. Let me go back. Let me go back. Um, you have to study your kids. You have to study your kids' behavior, and you need to be able to decipher them, right? Because guess what? Your kids are not going to tell you. They're not going to come out and just tell you. Do you know how many conversations that I had with my daughters?
and you gotta have
Okay.
that.
I
Yeah.
had conversations with my daughters. I've role played with my daughters. I've role played, everything that I felt that I needed them to know because of the experience that I went and my fears that I had. And I was not trying to portray them on them, right? But I just wanted them to get the information so that they would know how to think for themselves. And oftentimes, even when I was raising, my kids, all my boys and everything, you tell on me if I'm hurting you. That's how serious it was for me. But can I tell you that it wasn't enough? Can I tell you that because it was my what happened to me was the only experience that I knew, and I didn't know of others. So I'm not crafty into knowing that when I married my ex-husband, that he was the perpetrator that molested
Mm,
our daughters. He was the sicko that, he had a certain age in mind. I didn't understand, like, how did we go 4 years in our marriage where I thought was bliss and
mm,
and perfect, and we were we went to church and we served in the ministry, and like, how did this happen? Because
mm.
I didn't vet him, because I thought this was a complete different relationship that I was in. This was a godly one. I thought, like, seriously, like, I really thought I found my knight in shining armor, and to find out like how do I even the role play and even the talks that I had and all of that didn't help when I didn't know what the grooming process looked like. Things didn't look right, and my kids are acting out, and I didn't know how. I didn't. It looked
Mm.
familiar to Quan. It looked familiar, but because the behaviors are the same, like when your kids are acting out, but you don't connect that because I thought I married the right person. I thought he was my partner. I thought he had the girl's interest in mind, and I had the, like we had. I just thought, but then now it all makes sense. He wasn't. I'm pregnant with his child, and he's not touching me. And I just thought, okay, well, he does work 12 hours a day. I'm trying to make things make sense of things,
Mhm.
and but at the same time, there's chaos all around. And do you know the only person that was comfortable was him?
Mm.
And that in itself is a red flag. When I'm not
Mm.
getting along with my own flesh and blood, and I'm not getting along with the kids that I've adopted, like and I don't, and I'm and they're looking to me because I'm the enemy, and I know that I didn't do anything to to encourage that or had anything. I'm trying to understand what's going on, and the only person that was comfortable was him. Oh, you're just overreacting. Oh, you're just
Gaslighting the
da
situation.
da da da.
Mm.
Oh, you really don't like my daughter, or you really don't. You must really don't like my daughter. I don't understand what's going on here. Like, why? What? I'm trying to come to you about, what's going on with our kids, and it just didn't make any sense. So I'm saying all that to say that as much as I thought that I knew what God says about what a man with a bow ass is supposed to look like, he had all those qualities, y'all. He fit into a community in his neighborhood. He was I'm telling you, we were the powerhouse couple. We were. And in an instant, the only thing that caught up to his double life was that one of my daughters fought to tell the truth.
Mm.
And we could have died and lost our lives that night. I'm not going to go into it. That's a whole nother segment for a whole nother story. But what I'm saying to you is that my relationship with him was not worth the aftermath of the sexual assault that he did to them. I'm talking, one had to be hospitalized for several months because she forgot how to walk. She didn't know how to. She lost all mobility of her extremities because she had somebody let her fly in. She had what do you call that? A psychiatric
Oh,
break.
psychotic breakdown.
Yes. And so and the other one lost all identity of herself. She went through so many different levels. I mean, we did therapy for at least it was like 4 years, almost 5. And so therapy is only as good as what you allow it to.
Yes. Yes. Thank
So
you.
I'm quickly getting to that, right? So in order for you to want to have good mental health, it's going to be a practice. You have to practice it. You have to practice it until it becomes a part of you. Just like you got to practice, hey, I got to practice going to the gym every other day, if not every day, in order for it becomes, part of me, right? We go to school, to make it become a practice so that, it's not a struggle when we wake up in the morning. We know we have to go to our 9 to 5 jobs and all this other stuff. So you have to practice, put it into practice. And yes, it's going to be hard work, but I couldn't allow this to continue. As soon as it was told to me, I have to write my book. And Robert always tells me, "Where is your book?" I have to write my book. I do. I'm in the middle of it, but it's like it's hard to get over certain things, and I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Um, but I couldn't allow what just happened to fall on the wayside.
Mhm.
So I learned a lot about myself that I didn't know about myself until I was in front of a therapist. And thank God for the therapist that I had, who was willing to put the work in, who was batting for us.
Mm.
And she ends up, after the therapy, we're really good friends, which it's amazing that you could be actually friends with your therapist. And we're talking like this happened 10 years ago. So I couldn't allow what I know now. And as I'm getting better, and as I realize a lot of all the processes, the different types of pedophilia, because I had to learn all of this stuff. And because I would not be subject to that again, you know? And yes, maybe single, but my peace is much more worth, being at peace without being in a relationship, having to worry about, listen, I still got a 10-year-old son, y'all. Like, I have to be worried about. And then, you don't want to be fearful. Nobody's trying to be fearful or trying to put fear into y'all. It's really trying to wake y'all up, because the enemy wants our kids.
Yeah.
And that's simple. That's the end right there. The end is, if they can't destroy you, they're trying to go after your seed.
Yeah, they
And
want. Yeah,
so,
they want the
come
lineage.
on.
He wants
So
his
let us not
lineage.
be oblivious to think that your children are not a target. They've been a target since they were born. So if the enemy can't try to, get you to abort your child, and now your child is here into the world, it will throw every distraction at you. Like, when this situation happened at home, I literally, the kids were raising themselves. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was no good to myself. I was horrible. Like, I was horrible to myself. I took on so much guilt and shame, and
Mm.
because all of it seemed like it was just unreal. I cannot believe, how did I go through? How can I explain this? How did I go through what I went through as a child? Address one of my abusers, trying to get some sense of my life back, and then the man about my struggles of my past is sexually assaulting our kids. So let me tell you, vet the mess out of your relationships. Your children are not worth the exchange. And that's what I'm gonna say about that. I am 100% all about mental health. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be in healthy relationships. But my goodness, at what cost? And it
And I,
better not be over your kids.
and I have to say this. I have to give you credit, because oftentimes we don't give ourselves credit in these moments in which we have to. And I feel like, I have to say this. So I'm hearing you say that you guys went to therapy, right?
Mhm.
And that is such a beautiful thing. So I know you said sometimes it's hard to write, and sometimes it's just a matter of writing. But I have to say this while we're talking, right? And I would tell you even if we weren't live, but give yourself credit. And I think it's such a beautiful thing, because when you had every right to just break down and just forget it, just let everything just be what it is, and just wallow and just whatever, you chose collectively for you guys to get help in therapy. So I want to commend you on that. That is a beautiful thing, because not only did you didn't leave them to try to figure it out by themselves.
No.
You didn't like I'm thinking about my life and thinking how that's so beautiful. How I would have loved to, and I'm just going to give perspective, because sometimes we're hard on ourselves. But
We
that's
are.
a beautiful thing that you did, because I wish I would have had somebody to. Well, firstly, I didn't know how to explain what I went through, right? That's the tough part while going through this, because, you're like, how do I even explain it to somebody? They're not going to understand. But then I had to just figure it out until somebody came along that was on the
Right.
same journey as me, that understood. So I want to just commend you and say that I'm proud of you, and that's amazing that you chose to not let those things be and just lay them on the wayside, and you didn't just leave it for them to figure it out on their own. You was, you took advantage of the moment. Like, you were able to, you felt that pain. I'm sure it hurt it, but you decided to fight. And that's what we're going back to what we were saying earlier. Start somewhere.
Gotta start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. And I think that was amazing. It would have been beautiful. I know we can go by the what ifs, but to have somebody journey with you again, that doesn't, and that's why I sound like I was rambling in the beginning, but you proved my point. To have somebody to not just throw stuff at you and tell you what you should do, but to walk with you,
Come on.
that's a big difference. Like Robert always says, we don't just want people to connect with us like we're building this up right now. And he was like, we want people that we can do life with, right?
Yeah.
Brotherhood, he said, and we're not, and
Oh,
also, and always pride ourselves on giving resources and loving on people and helping them. But not just throwing it out there, but walking with them though. It's easy to tell somebody go get help. It's something wrong with you. We're quick to say, "Oh, you're crazy," because we don't know someone's story. But when you decide, like you're doing, to give people resources and to walk with them during the journey to figure it out, that's a big difference.
yeah.
So I want to say that you did what you did as a parent. When you found out those signs, some parents, which is the truth of why you're sharing this, I was watching the show today, Steve Wilkins, I think, and how there's plenty of people that come on the show, and I know we don't want to hear it, and because we're like, what parent would do that? But there's people that there was actually one right before you called. I was watching it today. Don't know why I was watching it. There's so many that came up, and so many parents came on there, and they did the lie detector test and found out that they were lying. Not only did the man abuse, but the mother knew, or the mother was abusing it, and the brothers or this person knew, and they were doing it collectively. So I know y'all don't want to hear about stuff like this. So that's why I'm taking the time to tell you this on here right now publicly, because there are some parents that aren't supportive and don't care. So I think this is beautiful what you're doing. Like, for you to stick up for your children, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
I feel as mothers, we need to tap into that bear.
Mm.
You got to tap into the bear in you. It's not hopeless. It's not. There are resources for mothers and fathers who who are dealing with your children who've been sexually assaulted. I think it is imperative for you to get all you need to know. Everything is one Google message away. You can look up resources. You can get the resources that you need to help rehabilitate your children. I think that's the other importance. But be in a position to do something about what if they tell you.
I got another question for you,
Come on.
because a lot of these men are hurting that we talk. This is making me emotional. I'm always emotional when I get to talking about this, but I was just thinking how, if someone was to truly say back then, "I love you," right, and really like embrace me, it would have made such a difference. And we need that affirmation, right? Not
Yeah.
just men, but the men and women that go through this, right? And I want to ask you, as a mother, what were some of the things that you have done to, and it could be now or during that time. I know one of those was therapy. That was definitely one of them, to affirm or to let your kids know you love them during that time. So what advice would you give to the parents to be able to, what can they show the kids that they care during that time?
Well, first I got to be vulnerable and I got to tell the truth.
Yes.
I struggled being a nurturer. And let me tell you why. I was a single mom for a very long time. I'm talking about for decades. My father was in the military, so he was a drill sergeant to us. Um,
Wow.
so I only knew discipline. I did not know how to love them. I did not show, I loved them by showing them that I can
Mm.
provide for them. I was a provider. So
Woo.
our
Man.
role, where you naturally think that that's supposed to be a male's role, when a woman who is single, who is providing
Wow.
for her children, I have to be honest about that. I did not. Okay. So my father did tell us that we were the apple of his eyes, and there was there were times where he was affectionate, but what I didn't see was his affection towards my mother. So I know what a daddy's love kind of looks like, but I don't know what a love looks like between a man and a
Mhm.
woman. And so that became a stumbling block for me because I only saw my mother as the giver. My father was the provider and my mother was the giver. And so I found myself to be the giver in relationships, and I never ever thought to myself that I should be receiving what I give. Like I thought it was a no-no. Like I shouldn't be expecting to receive. And so
Wow.
I was so I you find yourselves in toxic
Mm.
relationships because there are people like you said who are prone to see the weakness in people in the partners that they want to make you out of. So I have to tell you that I loved my children and they knew I loved them, right? But they're not affectionate now because I wasn't as affectionate as I should have been because I didn't know.
Ooh.
So they
Yeah.
struggle with not being affectionate because I struggled being less of not affectionate to them. So now the only thing I had, yes, was therapy because I knew, you know what, there's just no way we're gonna come from this. We cannot, I cannot think for 1 second that I know what I'm doing here. This is out of my league. I realized I had to surrender. All right. I never did blame God. I just asked why. You know what I mean? I was faithful to you. Like I just want to know, like I didn't blame him. I just want to know why do I have to be
And
the
there's
cup?
nothing wrong with asking. I know people are like, you can't quit. God wants you to speak. Look, there's nothing wrong with asking why.
I just
You're
need
hurt.
understanding.
Yeah.
I need understanding. And
Yeah.
so, unfortunately, you don't always get all of the understandings,
Yep.
and you're
Yep.
not going to get closure because I feel like you were looking for closure for, your abuser. Like, why
Yeah.
did you do this to me?
Yep.
And sometimes, and then when they gaslight you, it's like, oh my God. So, like, you're not going to make me feel like, no, you got to a place and a point in your life where, no, I'm not going to accept that behavior. I know, yes, it happened, and okay, later for you, and that's kind of like where you have to go with a lot of things. Like, okay, you have to get to a point where you're going to surrender everything, and then I said, Lord, show me how to love these kids, right? Because I have a
Wow.
I have a 31-year-old now, right? So at the time she was seven, no, she's probably 18, but she was out of the house. Then I had five of them all clustered together. They were all like 1 year apart. And so they had each other to lean on. And for me, I felt okay, they have each other. I don't have I have my support system as far as my church. My church supported me in this situation. But I'm trying to get to your question. I can't
No,
say
you're answering it. You have.
I
You have.
can't
No,
I
you are
can't
definitely answering
say
it.
um that I have a whole lot of questions. I mean, a lot of answers to that. What I can tell you is that I knew that there was a deficiency and I had to get help to restore that deficiency. And that took a process and that took years. And so now I can get to it. Now I'm a nurturer. I have a 10-year-old son that the kids look at me like, she wasn't like that with us.
But you know what? But you know what? It just made me think about mom. How it's just like I deal with that too. How because you can go two ways. You can either become not affectionate because that's what you were taught to. But that's why, and let me say this too. That's why it's important to give yourself grace during this period, right?
Mhm.
Because oftentimes we're like, dang, we couldn't. Like I'm hearing all the great things you did, and I'm thinking to because I'm thinking also I'm listening to and I'm understanding that look, we only give what we were taught.
Right.
Right? And so I look at my mom like, oh, she's different with my. Why you treating? You weren't like this with us. You weren't affectionate like this with us. But see, what happens is, and the same thing for we can say for ourselves. when you grow and you know better, you start to notice a lot of things.
Come on.
And like you said, you started to surrender. Like maybe, and I heard my mom say that recently, which was beautiful. She's like, I don't know everything, I'm learning. To hear people admit that, right? And I'm talking about for myself, everybody, like you start to look at life differently. So you just gave me perspective from a mother's point of view of why I see things differently now, because when life happens and changes happen, you do life differently,
You do.
you know?
You have to. And if you don't, then you need to check yourself. Like you should always be evolving. And see, I always go back to when the scriptures say, greater works so we are supposed to be doing. See, God was Jesus was a blueprint, right? And we're supposed to be all the things that he didn't touch base on, or people man says, oh well, he didn't talk too much about sexual abuse and things like that, but this is the greater work that we're supposed to be doing, and I'm so glad that I'm a part of it. I will forever tell my story in ways that help command change, and I hope that and I know that that's what you guys are doing. That's why I support you guys. That's why I support Robert. You will forever be a fan
Look,
in my book.
I'm grateful to be on here. I keep hearing, but you said surrender. That just won't get out my mind.
Yeah, you have to
Like that
surrender all
surrender,
of
like and what you're saying is great. I'm listening. I promise. It's like, but I keep hearing you say surrender. Like that's one of the first things that I had to do to when I started having my breakthrough in my life. To admit, like, you know what? I ain't been living life the way I should. And what I mean by that is that, you know what? I don't have all the answers, especially men. I'm gonna speak for men. Men, the grass can be red and we like it's green. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is just that when we're stuck and our pride is hurt, it's so hard to surrender to something, to surrender to somebody, especially when you have to put yourself back, right? So when I hear you say that, I think that's just a beautiful word. I didn't always look at it as a term that I would like to use, but now I realize that you can't begin to heal unless you start to understand that, you know what, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe there's something that I need to learn. Maybe I've been doing this wrong. When I realized that drinking wasn't a thing, and I realized having sex wasn't going to help me heal. When I realized, everything that was hurting me, even the suicidal ideations, I was like, man, I remember when I decided to live, though, I remember that, really decide to stick this through. I was like, after a while, after Robert talked to me, I was like, you know what? And it still took surrendering. Surrendering is not always at once. Like,
No,
you'll
it's
be in
not.
therapy and realize, I'm still
No, that's
stubborn.
also a practice,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
like my therapist was like, I was like, I set boundaries all the time, and I'm not stubborn. He was like, okay, but let's go over what you just told me. All right. And so it's just like it's a it's a life change. So I also, being a mental health advocate and for someone being an advocate of therapy and counseling, I want to let you guys know right now that therapy is amazing. Also, be ready to talk about what we talked about at the beginning, right? You have to start somewhere, but also know that you have to go back to some hurt to be able to really heal from it. Anything that you're not willing to admit, you won't be able to heal. I feel like you'll never be able to heal. I remember when I got my first therapist, we were talking about life, and he just allowed me to talk, and then we started to work on stuff, and I would purposely go in like, I ain't talking about this with this man today. Nope, I'm not. I'm gonna skip that part. Nope, 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 nope. But then when I started to break down, and then I surrendered, like, you know what, I can't be picky. Because if I knew how to fix it, I would have. I clearly have been doing this wrong. And then now I have somebody here to help me. And that's what hurt does too, as well. When you finally do have somebody to help, you kind of neglect it, or you don't know how to recognize it. So I want to just tell you guys that. And also, therapy isn't always go like this. Like, the charts, sometimes it's like this, and then sometimes it's like this.
That's right.
Because you have to journey back to that hurt to be able to heal. So I just want to just throw that out there. Like, therapy is an amazing tool. I know what people portrayed it to be. I know from minorities, right? From Latino, from from being Black to Indian, a lot of minorities, we didn't have those resources, right?
No.
But now since we do, look into it. I have people
Yep.
telling me, don't do it, just talk to people in the church. Well, sometimes people in the church aren't equipped. That's the truth. We need professional help, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
That's right.
So I let God, I allow God I surrender to God, and He allowed me to find these resources. So I just had to throw that out there because I'm a strong advocate for mental health. Get you some help. Never let nobody make you. Sometimes people are like, oh, you doing too much. Look, sometimes it takes that and more.
Yeah.
Do what you have to do so that you can heal and that you won't bleed over other people.
Mhm. Well, man, I mean, we had a great conversation, bro.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh man, like I cannot wait to watch this again.
Me
I
too.
always
I'm
do. I watch
excited.
every episode. Sometimes I watch it twice, 3 times, and then sometimes I blog about it. So you gave me a lot to consider, a lot to unpack. Daquan, you are an example of what it looks like for sexual assault to exist and go under the radar.
Yeah.
So allow this conversation, for those who are tuning in, for those who's going to catch the replay, to let that sink in. He shared red flags today. We talked about, what to look in your, as far as your children are concerned, what to look out for, the red flags in your children, because they speak even when they're not speaking.
Yes. I
Um,
love that. This is true.
Yes. I think it's important to vet your relationships, whether they're friendships, whether they're just platonic, whether it's a relationship you want to entertain for something, more permanent. I think the most important thing that you can do is to self-advocate for your children in that retrospect, to making sure that that is in check and that is in order, and you can never do enough vetting when it comes to that. Do I know what that looks like? No, but I can tell you that I listen to my internal, and I listen to the Spirit of God. And when something is familiar, when something looks like I'm remember, we have our experiences, right? We have our experiences, and then we have other people's stories, and all of that, for you to be able to discern, rightfully so, what you need to discern in relationships. There's a lot of things I will not entertain. I will not entertain silly men. I will not. And I'm okay with that. If that means I get to keep my peace, because when you add somebody else to the mix, right? When you add someone else to the mix, I cannot say that enough. When you add somebody else to your mix, if you don't have your stuff together when it comes to your children, and they're just going to add more chaos. Like you cannot look at this relationship as it being it for you. Who's going to want you now? That was my whole thing. Like, who's going to want me now? 7 kids later. And sometimes that does play a role in my life, as far as a quick second, and then I have to reject it. You got to get to a point in your life where you have to reject those thoughts. I'm beautiful. I know that. I know that I have a purpose, and I know that I might intimidate people, and maybe my platform isn't what they want to talk about, because maybe I'm right up their alley, and that's okay. That's where I'm at, and I'm accepting that. I'm accepting that. I believe there's probably someone out there for me in the future, but that's not what's driving me to do what I'm doing. That's not. I think what's important is that women and men who get in relationships, when you have children and you are providing for them and they live with you, that your children are the priority, not the other way around.
That's
And
right.
that's it. That's what I'm going to leave y'all with. That's just what I believe. That's my 2 pennies. You don't have to like it, but I tell you what, if it's not for you, that's okay. But if you think somebody else it could benefit, please share, because you never know who is going to free. You never know who is going to help. Would you like to say anything?
Yes. And it's crazy because I usually, even though I'm talkative today, I'm usually, which Robert always works on me about being a speaker now, is just that speak up, share, because usually I'm that person, like I would have been on here, like, nope, you say everything, because I always want to help behind the scenes. I never wanted to be, I don't want to, even being in front of the camera, it intimidates me, but it's like, I want to do this. I want to be to help
Yep.
people. I'm willing to get over it. So there's two things I want to mention, and I'll make it quick. Um, Remembering that you're not your trauma. All right. So a lot of people, like you were just speaking, like far as maybe finding someone or your life, like we are beautifully us. Like we're crafted in God's image, and a lot of times we let things affect our life, far as like what we want to do and our careers in life. I'm going through this because I'm speaking to the survivor still, and you're right now you're allowing your trauma to define you. Your trauma does not define you. It's a part of your story, but it's not you. It's not completely you. It's something that you can. It's something that you can tell. Something that you can share. Something that you can grow from. Right, if you let it. But the trauma is not you. You're allowing things not to happen or things to happen, and you're not pursuing your dreams in your life or love, whatever it is, because you're allowing that to be your identity. It's not your identity. I promise it's not. And secondly, I want to leave this with the guys, the Survivor Circle. Not only do we have the book and the workbook, but and I call it my baby because Robert has allowed me to be over this. The Survivor Circle. We also have a Facebook page in which you can find us. So I have to make sure I share that. And this is Survivor Circle is all about helping men overcome sexual trauma by providing resources and a network of support. And we've created this Facebook page in which we if you're a man, whether you're an advocate, whether you're a survivor yourself, whether you just want to know, we're not asking you to speak up, we're not asking you to share your story out loud and stand in front of anybody. If you want to join, you can. If you're a man and you're advocate or you're a survivor, you can join the group. And we have support, we have resources, we're loving on you. Um, and I just can't stress that enough that you have a community. So many men come into the group like, oh man, I didn't even know other people like me, and they may not speak up all the time, but they relate. They relate, and it's so important to have somebody fighting for you, and so we have that. And also we're touring again. So I want to put that out there that we are touring again for the Survivor Circle.
Wow.
We have DC coming up. We've been to Chicago. We may do something in Chicago again. We're working on something in Detroit. We're going to be in California. We were just in Atlanta. So also if anybody wants to partner with us, and wants to, and we're not charging as far as you to come out. We're asking people, survivors, advocates to come out, both men and women. But we created this space to be able to humanize the experience of men that have dealt with sexual trauma.
Hmm.
And a lot of people say, well, we allow women to be there. People say, well, how come it's just a group is just for men? We just want to be able to, again, humanize the experience and let people know that men go through this. And not to say one is better than the other, that we're both important, but if you can understand the experience of man, and then that's where the healing or help can start, right? So that's all.
Absolutely.
That's all we're doing. If people kind of ask me that, I want to put it out there. So just know you guys have a community. Please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. I'm going to make sure I correct that. I know you were telling me it's kind of hard. I don't know why what happened, but I'll make sure you can find me. Please feel free to message me on here, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and I'll be sure if I have any other information, I'll send it to you. But other than that, thank you so much for
You're
today.
welcome. I thank you for joining me and wrapping this month up with my second annual anniversary for They Took My Choice Away. I don't know where God has me to go from here. All I know is that, I'm answering the call, just
Yeah.
like you're answering the call. I believe wholeheartedly that men need to be with men in their full recovery of such traumas. They need to be supported by other men. They're more likely to be able to share in all of their transparencies
Yeah.
when they are around other men. So I
Yeah.
think ladies, be respectful of that. Don't ask the obvious questions of, why is it just for men? because men need this. Just like there are a ton of things for women to tap into and resources. There's very, very little that men have. So allow them, when they have spaces like this, respect their space, respect the time that is needed for them to get rehabilitated. In relationships, when you find out that your partner was sexually assaulted, women, it is important for you to be supportive.
Yes.
You know, just like think about how they've been supporting you all of this time and you had no idea. So when they come clean, also be supportive. And if you don't understand a thing and it's too hard for you to understand, that's where therapy is important, to help
Mm-hmm.
you, you know, digest your thoughts about things. You know, we don't have all the answers, and your partner's not going to have all the answers. He's trying to get to the answer. So don't be the stumbling block. I mean, I can go on and on about this, but I'm always going to be a you need to be self accountable for your actions, and self accountable for what you know now. And yeah, I don't know. We can go back and forth.
That was great. That was
About
great.
all
You
of
know,
that.
yeah. The biggest thing is just support. Just walk with them. You may not understand. This goes for men and women. She's speaking for both parties. If you don't get it, and a lot of times it's frustrating for. I promise this is my last thing. It's frustrating when we don't get it. Just walk with them. I know sometimes it seems foreign. Like how can I help them? This is affecting us. Just walk with them. Never force anybody. I'm talking to men and women as survivors. Just walk with them. If they know that you love them and you're just willing to stand with them as they try to figure it out, that goes a long way. You don't have to know everything. You do not have to have a word for everything. Sometimes it's just a matter of saying, you know what? As you're going on this journey to wholeness, I'm going to walk with you. That's it.
Ooh, that's
That's
it.
it.
And I'm putting a disclaimer out there. I want to talk to the women who are supporting, you know, men of sexual assault. I want to talk to the women because I know that you have a story to tell. And two, I think we need to know what healthy ways, what it looks
Oh,
like.
I would love. I would love that. I would love that. That's beautiful. I love that.
I'm telling you, I had Dave, you know, David from
Yes,
the community. I
yes,
had his
yes.
wife on here because she too was going through, you know, when she found out about her partner. I had to have her on. She was the most supportive woman I've
And I
ever
can't wait to
seen.
meet them.
Oh, you're gonna get to
Robert.
meet them?
Yeah, Robert has been connect. I've really met everybody. I haven't met Caleb yet, and I haven't met David, but I'll talk to David briefly, and he's amazing. His family's amazing. I'm proud of
They
him, and I can't wait
are.
for all of us to be able to. And we're working on something, so I'll be able to see.
Good. Good, good. That's awesome. So, you guys, I said it was going to be a 2-hour special. I know Daquan didn't think, you know, didn't
Yeah,
know. I did not tell him,
but
but
no, it was great. It was
I
amazing.
know it really is, and I'm sure that we can go on and on about other topics because there was so much to unpack. As there's so much to unpack in any sexual assault survivor's life, but if we can help in any way, you guys know where to find us. You put your links in all of this link on here, and that way everybody has access to
Definitely.
you and things like that, and whatever books you got on there, put them on there, direct links. It's available for you to do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna end for now, guys. And I'm gonna briefly talk to you when we get off. And you guys have a great day. Love you. Bye.
All right. Love you guys.